Derrick Rose's career was supposed to be a splendid one. Since Michael Jordan's retirement, no Chicago Bulls player had managed to become an MVP and exercise such a leadership role in the NBA until his appearance. But the story went wrong. A ligament injury was the first in a spiral of setbacks that took Rose away from his best. Chicago waited and waited, but after 5 years, they decided to move on. Here we'll tell you about what happened to the team after he made the decision, but not before talking a little bit about poor Derrick, who, even though he's not to blame, ended up being a huge problem. Stay with us until the end of the video to find out every detail about the fate of this team, which we cannot accuse of lack of patience or consideration. It was in 2016 when they made the decision. Rose was no longer the player he had been at the start of his career, but he was fighting to regain his level. While filming a documentary about his life for the Stadium platform, he received a call from his agent. The cameras recorded the entire sequence. She interrupted the recording to talk to him. "Chicago is closing a trade to send you to New York," he says. He's shocked. "Are you sure?" he asks. He sits back down in front of the camera, but he can't stand it. He calls his agent back and walks out of the house. And there he breaks down in tears. His dream of succeeding in his home again was over. The agent tries to comfort him, making him see that this is a fantastic opportunity for his career. Rose had no luck in New York, where he got injured again. The following year he signed for Cleveland, but was unable to continue and was traded to Utah, which they cut him and left him without a team. This season he did manage to shine in Minnesota, where he managed to break his personal record of scoring, getting 50 points against Utah. Since tearing his left knee's anterior cruciate ligament in 2012, alarms have been constantly sounding with Derrick Rose, but this time the noise is deafening. Psychologically tired of the damn injuries that have accompanied him in the last 5 years, the youngest MVP ever in the NBA was contemplating retiring and leaving behind a career with two distinct parts. The first is until the 2012 playoffs. The point guard was making headlines with a fast and violent style of play that didn't understand the basics of physics. He was passing bodies. He would bounce off them like a ball until he reached his opponent's basket. He made it to the Eastern Conference Finals once and won the league's Best Player award. He played 308 games out of a possible 340, 90.5% for the Bulls. A superb track presence that fell apart from a 2012-13 campaign. He spent that season in the dark and started his road to hell. In the last 6 seasons, counting 2012-13 and the current one, Rose has only played 45.9% of the games, 210 out of 475 between Chicago, New York, and Cleveland, for a career-ending total of 64.5%, 518 out of 803. The cavalry begins. In January, his first injury arrives. A sprained left toe causes him to be out for 5 games and another 5 a month later. His groin is out by 12. In April, more, ankle and foot. But the worst comes in the first game of the first round of the playoffs against the Sixers, when he tears the anterior cruciate ligament in his left knee. Goodbye to the rest of the course and the next one in its entirety. The Bulls begin a new way of life, to exist without him. Despite all the rumors, the point guard doesn't come back after the All-Star or in the playoffs. His recovery process is slow, and the player admits he will only return to the court when he is 110%, the most awaited return in the world of basketball. Radio, TV, and press ads cheer the return of an excited Rose. In mid-November, he is missing a game due to a hamstring strain, but he is participating in 9 of the first 10 games of the tournament. Then comes November 22nd. Rose tears his meniscus in November 2013. He returns to the courts with the U.S. team already in the summer. Rose misses 4 of 9 opening games with the Bulls because of a pair of sprained ankles. 4 more are due to hamstring problems, and 2 more in December due to illness, and 1 in January due to pain in his left knee. After the All-Star on February 24th, the Chicago team announced that an MRI scan of the base confirms a tear in the meniscus on the right knee that required surgery that prevented Rose from playing 20 games. Before the start of the season, Derrick Rose suffered an unintentional elbowing by one of his teammates. As a result, the point guard fractured his left orbital bone, left eye socket. He didn't miss any games because of that accident, but he had to play protected by a mask. Apart from various minor injuries, he was absent from 6 games due to hamstring tendinitis in his right leg in December and February. That would be his last season with the Bulls. who were already tired of not being able to count on the player, and decided to trade him to the Knicks, with whom, unfortunately, Derrick's problems would not cease. But that's part of another story. After the great disappointment of the Chicago team last season, Fred Hoiberg renewed the team, leaving only Jimmy Butler as a franchise player, along with Taj Gibson, Nikola Mirotic, Doug McDermott, Cristiano Felicio, and Bobby Portis continuing in the roster. The Bulls got a record of 41-41. With the difference that they managed to qualify for playoffs in the 8th position. In the first round, they faced the Boston Celtics, winning the first 2 games. However, after Rajon Rondo's injury, the Celtics come back from the series, finishing 4-2 in favor of the Celtics and leaving out the Chicago Bulls team. In January 2017, Jimmy Butler is traded in exchange for Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn. So the next 2 seasons, 17-18 and 18-19, serve as a transition in Chicago, with a balance of 27-55 and 22-60. The only incentive is to follow the evolution of the Finnish Lauri Markkanen. The 2018-19 season of the Chicago Bulls was the 53rd season of the NBA franchise. On December 3, 2018, the Bulls fired Fred Hoiberg and replaced him with assistant Jim Boylan. This season also produced the Bulls' highest scoring game in franchise history, recording 168 points on March 1, 2019, in a quadruple 168-161 overtime victory for the Atlanta Hawks. It broke a team record previously set in the 1983-84 season. It was also the 3rd highest scoring game in NBA history, as well as the 3rd game in which the 2 teams that scored broke the 160-point barrier in the same game. Away from the big spotlight of the star moves, the Chicago Bulls have signed an exemplary summer, given their rebuilding situation. In a few years, they have gone from the disaster that was the big 3 of Rajon Rondo, Dwayne Wade, and Jimmy Butler to a young block of the most prominent in the NBA and reinforced with veterans who fit. The Chicago team is promising. The casualties are hardly noticeable, and 3 main names arrive: Kobe White, Tomas Satoransky, and Thaddeus Young. The Bulls' summer makes a lot of sense, and back east, there's permission to dream. Although Zach LaVine is the team's most media-friendly player and has signed an excellent 2018-19 season, the figure to watch should be Lauri Markkanen. The Finn had problems with injuries last year and was unable to play 60 games, but his talent is undeniable. A 7-foot, skillful, intelligent, and with many points in his pockets. He also knows how to play hard and showed progress in the back despite his injuries. In the last 31 regular season games before a new injury, he averaged 20.2 points and 10.5 rebounds with 36% in 3-pointers. He has a lot of resources, and next to Wendell Carter Jr., he should be the piece on which the Bulls' reconstruction is based. The Chicago management had on their summer task list to improve the base position. It was mandatory. Chris Dunn is a good defensive player with limitations, and they wanted new faces. Well, they brought in 2, Tomas Satoransky and Kobe White. The Czech will provide security as a starter. White must be the strong card from the bench. He'll have more freedom and less pressure when he comes out with the second units, plus less competition. It's not the same to have a starter in front of you as a substitute. The North Carolina product will have room to shine and has plenty of offensive talent. These Bulls paint very well on paper. 2 or 3 details were missing in the summer, and the management has been able to fix them. Besides White and Satoransky, another player who will give a lot is Thaddeus Young, one of those veterans you want in any project. And with growing youngsters like Markkanen and WCJ, even more so. The squad is complete. In the position of base is duo Sato White, LaVine as a reference scorer at his side, and space for Shaquille Harrison, Dunn himself, or Valentine have one last chance in Illinois. Otto Porter Jr. as the 3-and-D of luxury at superhero price, again with an interesting young man as Chandler Hutchinson behind. And inside, the Markkanen, Carter Jr., and Young trio will keep it all going. The roster is deep and varied. It's true that the team is very young overall, but with Jim Boylan established as a coach after a tough start, the Bulls have the tools to compete from the multitude of options and the quality of them. Do the Bulls have enough to compete from now on? That's the big question, because the rebuilding is well established and all that's missing is time and form. LaVine is tied up for the long haul, as are Thad, Satoransky, White, Markkanen, and WCJ. Of the top players, only Porter Jr. has, besides from 2019 to 2020, one more year of the contract. Tying up this interesting and balanced block and giving it continuity seems to be the way forward, but perhaps to get into the Eastern playoffs, there will be one more season of blanks. The lower zone of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference aims to be similar to that of last year. In fact, Chicago's goal should be to look for those last 3 positions. the ones teams like Detroit or Miami will be fighting for, and go for it. The Bulls won't lose anything if they stay out of the postseason for another year, but they can win a lot if they get between 35 and 40 wins, and they're dream on. Getting into the playoffs would be extraordinary for a young team that's rebuilding. Staying out there and giving a good image is another very valid option for a team that seems perfectly prepared. We hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to hit the bell icon to get notified when we post our videos. Don't forget to subscribe and check out some of these videos that appear on the screen.